At dawn, in the parking lot of Mercy General, a man sleeps upright in the driver's seat of a beaten-up sedan. Inside, Surgeon Elise Thorne has just finished the 11-hour procedure that saved his son's life. Walking out, she glances through the car window, sees a child's photo on the dash, and freezes. The boy's face holds a resemblance she knows intimately. It's the unmistakable look of the man who broke her heart a decade ago. The man is Leo Walsh, a single father who drove 400 miles through the night to get his son to this specialist hospital. Dr. Elise Thorne is a celebrated cardiothoracic surgeon, renowned for her cool precision under pressure. She is also the former wife of tech billionaire Robert Vance. And the boy's face, the shape of his eyes, is the spitting image of a man Vance ruined a decade ago. This is no longer just about a successful surgery. It's about a debt unpaid, and a secret that just woke up in a hospital parking lot. Leo Walsh's life is a monument to quiet survival. He works 2 jobs, as a warehouse foreman and a weekend mechanic, to keep ahead of bills that began the moment his son Liam was born with a congenital heart defect. The medical debt sits at over $300,000, a number so large it becomes abstract, a ghost that rides in the passenger seat on every drive to a specialist. He sold his house, moved into a small apartment, and the beat-up sedan is both transportation and, on desperate nights, a temporary bedroom. His entire existence has narrowed to a single purpose: get Liam to his next birthday. 10 years ago, Leo was someone else. He was Leo Walsh, promising aerospace engineer at a startup called Ether Dynamics. He wasn't a billionaire, but he was on the ground floor of a revolutionary lightweight alloy design. His best friend and the company's charismatic CEO was Robert Vance. They built the company from a garage. Leo wrote the patents. Vance shook the hands and secured the venture capital. The breakthrough came, and with it, a buyout offer from a defense conglomerate for $170 million. The night before the deal was to be signed, Vance presented Leo with new paperwork. The equity split was being restructured. Leo's share shrank from 30% to 5%. Vance cited performance reevaluations and dilution rounds Leo had never been told about. When Leo objected, Vance's lawyers were ready. They had built a paper trail of minor mistakes, missed deadlines, all magnified and reframed as gross negligence. They threatened not just to fire him, but to sue him, to bury him in legal fees that would destroy his family's name. Leo took the 5%, a fraction of what he'd built, and signed an NDA so comprehensive it felt like a gag order. He walked away with $8.5 million before taxes, a life-changing sum to most, and a fraction of the fortune his work created. Vance sold the company 6 months later for $250 million and became a tech celebrity. Leo used his money to start fresh, to care for his ailing parents and to build a stable life. He met Clara, they had Liam, and for a while the past was just a bad dream. Then the diagnosis came. The savings evaporated in 18 months, swallowed by surgeries, specialists, and medications not fully covered by insurance. The money from Ether became a memory, then a curse. It wasn't enough. He never contacted Vance. Pride was a luxury he couldn't afford, but neither was begging the man who'd betrayed him. Meanwhile, in the sterile glow of the hospital's surgical wing, Dr. Elise Thorne scrubs out. The successful repair of a child's tetralogy of Fallot is a career highlight, a complex puzzle solved. But the image of the man in the car and the boy's photo won't leave her. She pulls up Liam Walsh's file on the secure terminal. Next of kin, Leonardo Walsh. Her breath catches. It's him. Not Robert Vance, but the other name from that era, the quiet engineer Vance would dismiss in stories as the brilliant but unreliable partner. She remembers the aftermath, the hushed meetings, Vance's glib justification over a $200 glass of wine. I had to consolidate vision. Leo was a builder, not a king. I gave him a golden parachute. She'd been uncomfortable but compartmentalized it. That was before she saw the full cost of Vance's ambition. Before her own marriage to him became a strategic merger, and her own divorce a brutally efficient extraction, leaving her with a sizable settlement but a deep contempt for his methods. A nurse interrupts her reverie. The father is asking for an update. He's in the family waiting room. Elise finds Leo Walsh there holding a foam cup of cold coffee. He looks older than his 37 years, the stubble flecked with gray, his eyes holding a fatigue no single night's sleep can explain. He stands as she enters, a reflex of desperate hope. "Dr. Thorne, how is he?" "Liam is in recovery, he's stable. The procedure was a success," she says, her professional calm intact. She sees the tension drain from his shoulders, a physical unclenching. He nods, swallowing hard, unable to speak for a moment. "Thank you," he finally whispers, his voice rough. I don't know how to." "You don't have to," she says. Then, against her own better judgment, she adds, "Mr. Walsh, I know of you, from a long time ago. Ether Dynamics." Leo's head snaps up, his eyes sharpening, the vulnerability replaced by instant, guarded wariness. It's the look of a man who has been ambushed before. "What about it?" "I was married to Robert Vance," she says flatly. The air leaves the room. Leo takes a half step back as if physically pushed. His expression cycles through shock, confusion, and finally, a hardening resignation. "Of course," he says, a bitter laugh escaping. "So you know the whole story, the official version anyway." "I know his version," Elise corrects quietly. "I saw the aftermath. I didn't know about your son." "Why would you?" Leo's tone is not angry, just exhausted. "It's not part of the story. The guy who didn't fit the narrative just disappears." He looks toward the ICU doors. "All that matters is in there. The rest is ancient history." But Elise is already doing mental math. The staggering medical debt in Liam's file, the 8-year-old car, the man sleeping in parking lots, the fortune Vance built in part on Leo's stolen work. A cold, surgical anger, precise and targeted, begins to crystallize within her. This isn't ancient history. It's an open wound. Later in her office, she does what she's trained to do. She diagnoses the problem. She accesses public financial databases, a skill honed during her own divorce proceedings. She traces the shell companies Vance used after the Ether sale, finding the trail that led to his current venture, a biosurveillance startup valued at over $4 billion. She reads the old, redacted patent filings for Ether's core technology. The lead inventor listed is Leonardo Walsh. The phone on her desk rings. It's the hospital administrator. "Elise, about the Walsh case. I'm glad it went well, but I need to inform you the family's financial guarantee is insufficient. The advance deposit covered only 20%. We'll need a payment plan for the balance before discharge, which could be 2 weeks. It's a substantial sum." Elise knows what this means. Leo will be presented with an impossible choice: take his fragile son home too early or sign a payment plan that will bury him forever. The system, efficient and cold, will grind him down. She makes a decision. She walks back to the family waiting room. Leo is still there, staring at the wall. "Mr. Walsh," she says, "we need to talk, not as your son's surgeon, as someone who understands the man who put you in this position. The debt you have isn't just medical. It's a debt Robert Vance owes you, and I might know how to make him pay it." Leo stares at Elise, the offer hanging in the sterile air between them. His first instinct is to walk away. Trusting anyone connected to Robert Vance is a recipe for more ruin. But he looks past her, through the window to the ICU wing where his son is fighting to recover, tethered to machines he can't afford. "Make him pay how?" Leo's voice is low, wary. "He has an army of lawyers. I signed things. They thought of everything." "They thought of the legal avenues," Elise corrects, stepping closer. "My divorce from Robert wasn't amicable. It was a war of attrition. I had to become an expert in his tactics, his shell companies, his weaknesses. I didn't just get a settlement, I got a digital paper trail. Emails, memos, early financial projections for Ether." She pauses, letting the implication sink in. "The story he sold the world and the courts was that you were compensated fairly for your contribution. What if we can prove the contribution was the entire foundation, and the compensation was theft. They talk for an hour in a deserted hospital cafeteria. Elise lays out her theory. Vance's modus operandi is repetition. He finds a brilliant partner, leverages their work, then engineers a conflict to squeeze them out with minimal cost, always hiding behind layers of corporate structure. She believes the original Ether patents, filed under Leo's name, are the bedrock of the sensor technology in Vance's new company, Omnivision. If they can prove prior art and fraudulent concealment, they could file a civil suit for tens of millions, maybe more. It's a nuclear option, Leo says, rubbing his temples. It would take years. Liam doesn't have years. The hospital billing department doesn't operate on legal timelines. Then we don't start with a lawsuit, Elise replies, a cool, strategic light in her eyes. We start with a threat, a precisely calibrated one. Robert's greatest asset is his reputation as a visionary. His greatest liability is his ego. We show him we have the evidence to shatter the first and see if his ego will pay to keep it quiet. The plan is audacious. Elise will use her contacts from her life in Vance's orbit to get an invitation to a high-profile tech philanthropy gala in 2 weeks, where Vance is being honored. Leo, posing as her guest, will be there. The confrontation will happen in public but quietly in a controlled moment. The goal: secure a settlement wired directly to a trust for Liam's care within 48 hours. For Leo, agreeing means stepping back into a world he despises, wearing a borrowed suit to face the man who stole his future. But the image of Liam, finally getting the ongoing care he needs without the constant specter of debt, makes the decision for him. Okay, he says, the word feeling foreign. What do we need? The next 2 weeks are a frenzy of clandestine preparation. Elise reaches out to a forensic accountant she used during her divorce, a discreet woman named Anya. Their task is to build the undeniable link between Leo's Ether patents and Omnivision's current flagship product. Anya works in a secure digital vault, tracing code architectures and material science specifications. Meanwhile, Leo has to become Leonardo Walsh again. Elise arranges for a tailor, coaches him on the social nuances of the event. He feels like an actor preparing for a role he never wanted to play. During the days, Leo is at Liam's bedside. The boy is improving, his color returning. He asks his dad why he looks so nervous. Just big grown-up stuff, buddy, Leo says, forcing a smile. The weight of the secret is immense. He is risking everything on the word of a woman he barely knows. Elise, meanwhile, is playing a dangerous double game. She is still Dr. Thorne, performing surgeries, making rounds. But in her off hours, she is a strategist. She uncovers a crucial piece of information. Vance's Omnivision is days away from sealing a massive government contract for citywide surveillance systems. The contract is worth over $400 million, and it hinges on Omnivision having clean, proprietary, and litigation-free technology. A public dispute over patent origins would trigger a mandatory review, delaying the deal for months, possibly killing it. This is their leverage, not just reputation, but cold, hard cash. Vance would stand to lose more by fighting them than by paying them off. The night of the gala arrives. The venue is a modernist museum, all glass and light. Leo, in a tailored suit, feels like an imposter. He sticks close to Elise, who moves through the crowd with effortless grace, a mask of polite charm firmly in place. He sees Robert Vance from across the room. Older, more polished, surrounded by a sycophantic circle. He looks every bit the King Leo remembers. Elise guides them through the motions. They network. They make small talk. Then, during a transition between speeches, she engineers the moment. She leads Leo to a semi-private balcony overlooking the city. As predicted, Vance, seeking a moment of quiet, steps out alone a minute later. He sees Elise first, a smile touching his lips that doesn't reach his eyes. Elise, a surprise. I heard you were saving lives, not schmoozing with the benefactors. Then his gaze shifts to Leo. The recognition is not immediate, but when it comes, it's a subtle freeze in his posture, a micro-twitch in his jaw. He covers it with a bland politician smile. And you've brought a guest. Robert, you remember Leo Walsh, Elise says, her voice smooth as surgical steel. Of course, Leo, it's been a long time. Vance extends a hand. Leo takes it. The handshake is firm, dry, and utterly empty. I hope life has been kind to you. It's had its challenges, Leo says, holding the man's gaze. Mostly financial. Turns out, building the foundation for someone else's fortune doesn't set you up for the long term, especially when pediatric cardiology is involved. Vance's smile tightens. I'm sorry to hear about your difficulties. The healthcare system is a tragedy. He's already framing it as a systemic issue, not a personal consequence. Elise cuts through the platitudes. Robert, we're not here for sympathy. We're here for a resolution. Anya Chen has completed a forensic analysis. The Omnivision core is Ether Alloy 2.0. The patent trail is conclusive. Leo's signature is on the original filings that your current engineers are using as a blueprint. Vance's affable mask slips for a second, revealing the cold calculator beneath. Those patents were assigned to Ether Dynamics. The company paid for that research. He was compensated. He was defrauded, Elise counters calmly. And we have the internal memos from the week before the buyout that prove you and the board knowingly revalued his contribution to justify the equity theft. We have the emails from your lawyer outlining the strategy to construct a performance narrative to force him out. The color drained slightly from Vance's face. He hadn't known she had that. The divorce discovery process had been broader than he'd realized. He looks from Elise to Leo, reassessing the threat. What do you want? $20 million, Leo says, the number sounding surreal as he says it. Wired to an irrevocable trust for my son's medical care, in full by 9 a.m. day after tomorrow. Vance lets out a short, harsh laugh. 20 million, that's absurd. It's a fraction of the government contract you're about to sign, Elise says. And it's less than the legal fees and revenue delay you'll face when we file an injunction and send our dossier to the Defense Procurement Office. The story won't be about a patent dispute. It'll be about the tech visionary who built his empire on stolen valor and fraud. Your brand is ethical innovation. This kills that. They have him and he knows it. The public confrontation, the specific details, the timing, it's a perfect trap. Vance's eyes turn to Flint. You think you can blackmail me? We're presenting a business proposition, Elise says. Payment for the full and final release of any claims related to intellectual property derived from Leonardo Walsh's work at Ether Dynamics. We'll sign whatever you want. The money is for Liam. This ends here. Vance is silent for a long moment, looking out at the city lights. He is weighing the cost. 20 million is a staggering sum, but to him it's a rounding error on the Omnivision deal. His reputation, however, is priceless. I'll have my people draw up the agreement, he says finally, his voice devoid of all warmth. You'll have your wire, and then you will disappear. If either of you ever speaks of this again, I will bury you, not with lawsuits you can fight, with things you can't. He turns and walks back into the gala, leaving them on the balcony. Leo feels a wave of dizzying relief so potent his knees go weak. It's over. They've won. Liam is safe. Elise places a steadying hand on his arm. It's not over until the money clears. Don't celebrate yet. They return to the hospital the next day, operating on nervous energy. The agreement arrives via encrypted email from Vance's lawyers. It's dense, 50 pages long. Elise has her own lawyer review it. It's airtight, but it's also clean, a settlement for past consulting services and intellectual property license, with full confidentiality clauses. By late afternoon, Leo signs. The following morning at 8:57, Leo sits in Liam's hospital room staring at his phone. At 9 o'clock exactly, a notification appears. A wire transfer, $20 million. He shows the screen to Elise, who is checking Liam's vitals. She allows herself a small, tight smile. It's done. For 3 days, they exist in a state of surreal peace. Leo pays the hospital bill in full, a transaction that takes a team of administrators to process. He establishes the trust for Liam. He looks at apartments near good schools. The nightmare is receding. On the fourth day, Elise is paged to the hospital's main administration office. The chief of surgery and the hospital's legal counsel are there, their faces grave. "Dr. Thorne," the chief begins, "we've received a formal complaint filed with the state medical board. It alleges you engaged in an inappropriate relationship with a patient's family member for personal financial gain. It cites the recent, substantial payment made by Mr. Walsh and suggests you used your position to manipulate a vulnerable father." Elise feels the world tilt. "That's ridiculous. I helped him secure a legal settlement from a third party. The complaint is from Robert Vance." The legal counsel nods slowly. "The filing is anonymous, but the details are precise. The board is obligated to investigate. Until it's resolved, the hospital is placing you on administrative leave, effective immediately." Vance's counterattack isn't a lawsuit. It's a character assassination. He's targeting her license, her career, the very thing that defines her. And he's doing it in a way that isolates her from Leo. If they are seen as conspirators, her testimony about the patents becomes tainted, motivated by greed or manipulation. She walks out of the office in a daze. Her phone vibrates, a text from an unknown number. It contains just a link to a popular tech gossip site. The headline screams, "Surgeon or schemer?" Questions swirl around Miracle Doc and mysterious million-dollar payment. The article is a masterpiece of insinuation, quoting anonymous sources and concerned hospital staff. It mentions Leo's past as a failed entrepreneur and Elise's divorce from Robert Vance, framing their alliance as a shady plot. The court of public opinion is now in session. Elise calls Leo, her voice trembling with a fury she's never felt in an operating room. "He didn't just pay, he set a trap. He's coming for my medical license, and he's making it look like we're criminals." Leo's voice is grim on the other end. "What do we do now? We have the money, but he's trying to destroy you." Elise looks out her window, the city sprawling below. Vance has changed the game. He's made it personal, and in doing so, he's made a critical mistake. He's assumed she would fold under professional pressure, but he's forgotten what she is at her core, a fighter who fixes broken things. "Now," Elise says, her voice regaining its surgical calm, "we stop playing defense. We go public with everything. The patents, the fraud, the memo. We burn his reputation to the ground before he can burn my career." Going public is a tactical nuclear option. It destroys cover for everyone, including themselves. Elise knows this, but with her career in the crosshairs, she has no cover left to preserve. She and Leo meet with Anya, the forensic accountant, and a sympathetic journalist named David Cho, who has a reputation for investigating tech corruption. They hand over the entire dossier, the patent timelines, the memos, the financial projections showing the true value of Leo's work, and a recorded statement detailing the gala confrontation and the $20 million settlement. "The story isn't about a scandalous doctor," Elise tells Cho. "It's about a systemic predator. Vance didn't just steal from Leo. He built a template he's used on others. We're just the ones who fought back." The article drops at 5 a.m. on a Monday. It is meticulous, devastating, and punctuated with scanned documents. The headline is simple: "The original sin of a tech titan, how Robert Vance built an empire on stolen work." It trends nationally within an hour. News outlets pick it up but frame it cautiously, a sensational allegation. Vance's PR machine swings into action, issuing a furious denial, calling it the extortionate fantasy of a disgruntled former employee and a vengeful ex-spouse. They point to the medical board complaint as proof of Elise's compromised ethics. For 2 days, it's a war of narratives. Then, the first domino falls. The Defense Procurement Office announces a routine review of the Omnivision contract, pausing all proceedings. Vance loses $400 million of future revenue in a single press release. His retaliation is swift and brutal. Libel lawsuits are filed against Elise Leo and journalist David Cho. The lawsuits are not meant to win. They are meant to drown them in legal process, to inflict financial and emotional exhaustion. Simultaneously, a shadowy online campaign begins. Doctored photos suggesting an affair between Elise and Leo appear on fringe forums. Bots amplify the hospital scandal story. Vance is fighting a war on every front: legal, media, and psychological. Elise is now suspended, her reputation in tatters. The hospital board is panicking, caught in the crossfire. Leo, meanwhile, faces a new horror. The trust fund for Liam is now a target. Vance's lawyers file a motion to freeze the assets, claiming the $20 million is the proceeds of blackmail and subject to recovery. A judge grants a temporary freeze pending review. The money that was supposed to secure Liam's future is locked away. They have won the battle of public opinion, but are losing the war of attrition. It's Anya, the forensic accountant, who finds the chink in Vance's armor. While tracing the money flows for the lawsuit, she uncovers a parallel paper trail. He didn't just do this to Leo, she tells them in a secure video call. I found two others. A software architect named Marcus Reed, pushed out of a Vance-owned AI startup in 2019. A biomedical researcher, Dr. Aris Thorne, in 2021. Elise goes very still. Aris Thorne, that's my cousin. The connection is like a lightning strike. 2 years ago, her cousin Aris, a brilliant researcher in neural interfaces, had a mental breakdown and left his field abruptly. He'd been vague, citing burnout. Elise had been too busy with her own collapsing marriage to probe. Anya pulls up the records. Aris Thorne sold his research and patents to a Vance-controlled biotech shell company for a lump sum that seemed generous at the time, but was a fraction of their later valuation. The contract included a non-disparagement clause so severe it bordered on unlawful. The pressure of the deal and the subsequent realization he'd been swindled coincided with his breakdown. Vance's pattern isn't just opportunistic, it's predatory. He scouts talent, co-opts their breakthroughs, and uses legal machinery to grind them down when they question the terms. Leo was the prototype. Aris was a refinement. There are likely more. This changes everything. They are no longer two isolated victims. They are part of a pattern. A class-action lawsuit begins to look possible, but it would take years. They need something faster, something that forces a regulatory or criminal investigation. They need a whistleblower from inside Vance's organization. Leo suggests the impossible. What about someone who's still there? Someone who knows where the bodies are buried but is afraid to leave. Elise thinks of the inner circle, the loyalists. Then she remembers one person, Carla Jensen, Vance's longtime chief operations officer, a woman who was always more pragmatic than ideological. Elise had several tense but respectful interactions with her during the divorce. Carla was the one who often executed Vance's messy plans, the fixer. And fixers, Elise knows, eventually get tired of the mess. Reaching out is a monumental risk. If Carla is still loyal, she will immediately tell Vance, giving him advance warning of their next move. They decide on a direct, encrypted approach. Elise drafts a message, focusing not on morality but on liability. She lays out the pattern Anya has uncovered: Leo, Aris, others. She attaches the key documents. The subject line reads, "Containing the fallout, the pattern is the problem." They send it and wait. For 36 hours there is no response. The legal pressure mounts. The online smear campaign grows uglier. Then a single-line reply arrives on a new encrypted channel. "Meet. Neutral ground, the Arboretum. Tomorrow 10 a.m. Come alone. ET only." Elise goes to the meeting, her heart a drum in her chest. The Arboretum is quiet, a green oasis. Carla Jensen is there, looking older and more strained than Elise remembers. She dispenses with pleasantries. "You've put a spotlight on a recurring operational headache," Carla says, her voice low. "Robert's genius is vision. His pathology is believing he's entitled to whatever he needs to achieve it. My job has been to make the headaches go away. Leo was a headache. Your cousin was a headache. You are becoming a very big headache. We're not going away, Elise says. I know, that's why I'm here. Carla looks around, ensuring they're alone. The lawsuit, the articles, they're annoying, but they're not existential. What you don't have is evidence of criminal activity. Fraud is hard to prove, but what if his methods weren't just ruthless but illegal? Elise holds her breath. What are you saying? The Omnivision government contract, Carla says. The bidding process. He didn't just have a better product. He had information, non-public specifications from inside the procurement committee. He paid for it through a series of offshore consultancies. I have the wire transfer records. I have the encrypted chat logs with the middleman. It's felony bribery. It would not only void the contract, it would bring federal charges. This is the wait, it gets worse moment, but for Vance. They've moved beyond a civil dispute over stolen ideas. They are now on the precipice of a federal crime. Why give this to me? Elise asks. Because I'm next, Carla says, her mask of composure finally cracking. The pattern you identified. The fixer becomes a liability. He's already grooming my replacement. He thinks I don't see it. If he goes down for bribery, I go down as an accomplice. But if I give you the evidence first, if I cooperate with an investigation, I might have a chance. She hands Elise a small, encrypted hard drive. Everything is here. The keys are in a file labeled Arboretum. Do not open it on a network-connected device. Take it to the authorities. The U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District. Ask for Assistant U.S. Attorney Miranda Cortez. She's been looking for a thread to pull on Vance for months. Elise takes the drive, its weight insignificant, its contents colossal. Thank you. Don't thank me, Carla says, turning to leave. I'm not doing this for you, I'm doing it for me. Just be faster than he is. He suspects I'm unhappy. If he realizes what I've done, he won't sue you. He'll destroy you. Elise returns to the safe house where she and Leo are now staying, Vance's private investigators having been spotted outside their homes. She shows Leo the drive. This is it. This is how we end him. But Vance is indeed faster than they anticipate. That evening, as they are preparing to contact AUSA Cortez, Leo's phone rings. It's the nursing station in Liam's hospital wing. His voice is frantic. Mr. Walsh, you need to come immediately. There's been an incident. Liam is okay, but someone tried to access his room. They posed as a specialist from another hospital. Security stopped them, but they got away. The world goes cold. Vance has crossed a line from corporate warfare to something far more visceral. He isn't just threatening lawsuits or reputations anymore. He's signaling that he can reach Liam. The unspoken message is clear. Stand down, or the next attempt won't fail. Leo looks at Elise, his face pale with a terror deeper than any financial ruin. He touched my son. The sentence is a vow and a breaking point. All strategic thought evaporates. The fight is no longer about patents or bribes, it's primal. Elise understands. The hard drive in her hand is no longer just evidence. It's a weapon, and they have just run out of time for a slow, legal process. They need to fire it now and hope the shock is enough to paralyze Vance before he can make another move. We go to the U.S. Attorney tonight, Elise says, her voice steel. And then we go to the press with the headline he can't spin. Billionaire targets critically ill child in escalating feud. We burn it all down, right now. They move under cover of darkness. The drive to the federal building is tense, silent. The encrypted hard drive feels like a live grenade in Elise's bag. They are met by two stern FBI agents and escorted to a secure conference room where Assistant U.S. Attorney Miranda Cortez waits. Cortez is in her 40s, with an air of impatient intelligence. She listens without interruption as Elise lays it out. The patent theft, the bribery scheme, the attempted intrusion at the hospital. Leo adds the human cost, his voice cracking only when he describes the man posing as a specialist outside Liam's room. They hand over the drive. Cortez plugs it into an isolated laptop. For 20 minutes, the only sound is the clicking of keys. Then she leans back, a slow, grim smile spreading across her face. Ms. Jensen undersold it. This isn't just a bribe, it's a roadmap. We have the offshore accounts, the intermediaries, the specific procurement officer on the take. This is a RICO predicate. She looks at them. You've just handed us the keys to the kingdom, but you understand this accelerates everything. We'll need to move on Vance before he can retaliate further. That means protective custody for you and your son, Mr. Walsh, immediately. Leo refuses to leave Liam alone at the hospital. A plan is forged. At 5 a.m., a joint FBI and hospital security team quietly moves Liam, still in his bed, to a secure, undisclosed wing of the hospital. Leo stays with him. Elise is placed in a safe house. The machinery of federal justice, slow by design, begins to spin at a terrifying speed. At 9 a.m., while the tech world is still digesting the previous day's bribery headlines, the hammer falls. FBI agents swarm Omnivision's headquarters in a coordinated raid. Robert Vance is arrested at his home, filmed in his bathrobe being led to a black SUV. The charge sheet is read on live TV: conspiracy to commit wire fraud, bribery of a public official, and racketeering. Simultaneously, the SEC announces its own civil suit for securities fraud. Vance's assets are frozen. The Omnivision contract is formally voided. The media frenzy is instantaneous and absolute. The narrative flips completely. Elise is no longer the scheming surgeon. She is the whistleblower who brought down a corrupt titan. The medical board quietly drops its complaint. The hospital reinstates her with a public statement of support. Leo's frozen trust fund is unfrozen by court order. The libel suits are dismissed. But the real closure happens away from the cameras. 2 weeks after the arrest, Elise visits Leo and Liam in their new, secure apartment. Liam, gaining strength every day, is playing with a model airplane. The resemblance to his father and to the younger, hopeful version of Leo that Elise never knew is heartbreakingly clear. The U.S. Attorney's Office wants to talk about restitution, Elise says. Cortez thinks, given the RICO conviction, they can force Vance to disgorge assets. It could be significantly more than the $20 million. It could be life-changing. Leo looks at his son, then at Elise. The money, it's not the point anymore. Liam is safe. That was the point. The rest is just accounting. He pauses. But there is something I want, something that isn't money. He asks for a formal public correction, a statement from the remaining board of Ether Dynamics, acknowledging his role as the primary inventor of the core technology. He wants his name on the patents in the history books, cleared of the underperformer narrative Vance created. It's a request for legacy, for dignity. Elise helps him draft the demand. Vance, facing decades in prison, agrees to everything in exchange for a marginally reduced sentence recommendation. The day the legal acknowledgement is filed, Leo takes Liam to the park. For the first time in years, he feels light. The ghost is gone. For Elise, the victory is more complex. Her career is restored, but the experience has altered her. She returns to surgery, but she also begins volunteering with an organization that provides pro bono legal and financial advocacy for families drowning in medical debt. She uses her first-hand knowledge of Vance's tactics to help others spot predatory contracts and fight back. The final surprising detail emerges 6 months later. Carla Jensen, having secured full immunity, provides one last piece of testimony. She reveals that Vance's fixation on destroying Leo and Elise wasn't just about the money or the contract. It was personal in a way they never guessed. Vance had seen early paparazzi photos of Elise and Leo talking during the scandal. He misinterpreted their alliance as a romantic relationship. The man who had discarded them both couldn't stand the idea that they might find solidarity, even happiness, in his ruin. His final, petty act, the attempt to intimidate them at the hospital, was motivated by jealous spite as much as strategy. The case concludes. Vance is sentenced to 25 years in federal prison. His empire is dismantled. its usable assets sold to pay fines and restitution. A year to the day after the dawn in the hospital parking lot, Elise finishes a long shift. As she walks out into another early morning, she sees a familiar car. It's not beat up anymore. It's a modest, reliable SUV. Leo is leaning against it, waiting. Liam is in the back seat, asleep. "He had a checkup," Leo says softly. "Everything's perfect. He's cleared for school, sports, everything." He hesitates. "I never got to thank you properly, not for the surgery, for everything after." Elise smiles, a genuine tired smile. "You saved him, Leo. I just handled a complication." "A complication," Leo echoes, laughing quietly. He looks at the hospital, then back at her. "You know, for years this place was a temple of anxiety for me. Now it's just a building where good people work." He opens the passenger door. "Can I give you a ride home? It's the least I can do." Elise hesitates for only a second before nodding. She gets in. As they drive away from the hospital, the first rays of sun break over the city. The silence between them is comfortable, a quiet understanding forged in a fire that consumed a giant. They are not a fairy tale. They are two people who were broken by the same source of poison, who helped each other remove it, and who are now, slowly, figuring out what to build in the cleared space. Leo pulls up to her building. As she gets out, he says, "Liam asks about you, you know. He calls you the lady who fixed his heart twice." Elise's eyes glisten in the morning light. "Tell him I'm always here if he needs a tune-up." She watches them drive away, the taillights disappearing into the flow of the city. She touches the keycard to her building's door but doesn't go in immediately. She looks up at the sky, now fully light. The long night is finally over. The hook set in a moment of exhaustion and recognition has been played out to its final, just conclusion. A father and his son are safe. A predator is in a cage. And a surgeon who started by saving a life ended by helping to salvage a future. So what do we take from a story like this? It's easy to see it as a tale of two against one, of David versus Goliath. And in many ways it is. But look closer and you see something else. You see how systems are built to protect the powerful, and how those same systems can be turned against them by the precise application of truth. You see how a single moment of recognition, a surgeon seeing a familiar face in a child's photo, can become the first domino in a chain that topples an empire. Robert Vance's story is a cautionary tale about the toxicity of unchecked ambition, about how the belief that you are entitled to the work of others inevitably corrupts everything it touches. But Leo and Elise's story is the counterpoint. It's about the resilience of the human spirit, about the quiet, grinding endurance of a parent's love, and about the professional integrity that refuses to look away from an injustice, even when it's personally dangerous to intervene. This wasn't about revenge. It was about restoration, restoring a father's ability to care for his son without fear, restoring a doctor's right to practice without smear, restoring the proper credit for work that changed an industry. In the end, the most powerful weapon they had wasn't a legal document or a hidden file. It was their willingness to stand together when every force told them to stand apart. We live in a world that often feels engineered by and for the Roberts, the charismatic takers who build fortunes on the backs of the Leos and the Elises. But this story reminds us that the takers have a fatal flaw. They underestimate the people they exploit. They mistake quietness for weakness and principle for naivety. And in that gap, in that miscalculation, lies the possibility for change. The parking lot at dawn, the sleeping father, the exhausted surgeon, these weren't just the opening scenes of a drama. They were a snapshot of a broken contract. A contract that says hard work is rewarded, that the system protects the vulnerable, that justice finds a way. This story is about two people who decided, against all odds, to hold the world to that promise. And in doing so, they didn't just win a fight. They rewrote the ending. If you believe that courage isn't about lacking fear, but about acting in spite of it, if you believe that sometimes the most heroic thing you can do is simply stop for someone else's broken down life and help them fix it, then this story is for you. Subscribe for more documentaries about the quiet battles that reshape our world.